Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of Caerphilly SACRE being held on Wednesday the 6th of July 2022 at 3 p.m. This meeting is being held via Microsoft Teams. The meeting is being recorded and will be made available to view via the Council's website, except for any discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images and audio of those individuals present and or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council website. I'll now take a roll call for attendance. First of all, the Councillors group. Councillor Aldworth.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Shacken Dawson.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Miles.
Present.
Councillor Parry.
Present.
Councillor Whitcomb.
Present, Chair.
And I myself am present. Teacher representatives. Helen Bartley.
Present.
We've had apologies from Tara Lloyd, Mynir Jones and Claire McLaughlin. Is Catherine McCulloch with us? No, I don't think Catherine is with us. And from the religious and non-faith organisations, Mrs. Janet Jones.
Present, Chair.
Mr. Michael Gray.
Present.
And we've had apologies from Major Paula Hubbard and from Mr. Ken Chamberlain. And could I check if the following officers are present? Hayley Jones from EAS.
Present, Chair.
Vicky Bodenham.
Present, Chair.
And Julie Lloyd from Committee Services.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. And I'd also like to welcome supporting officers from Committee Services who are in the background. Thank you all for confirming your attendance, and please can I remind attendees that if they lose connection during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as the meeting is quorate, and Committee Services staff are on hand and will be able to assist anyone to reconnect if necessary. Are there any apologies for absence? The ones I've had of Tara Lloyd, Mynir Jones, Claire McLaughlin, Paula Hubbard and Ken Chamberlain. I don't think there are any other apologies. I'd like to welcome the new council representatives to the meeting. That's Councillor Shacken Dawson, Councillor Miles and Councillor Whitcomb. Welcome to the SACRE as it is now, but soon to be renamed.
Thank you.
One thing with apologies for absence I forgot to mention was Rebecca Barrett, who is our SACRE committee clerk, unfortunately has gone down with COVID, and so she's not able to be with us, but we're in the capable hands of Julie Lloyd instead. One thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that Mrs. Envis Hawthorne has decided to stand down as a member of the SACRE. Envis, I think, has been a member of the Caerphilly SACRE since it was set up, when Caerphilly came into being. She was certainly a member of it when I first came onto it in 1999.
Yes, I remember as well.
She then, at that time, represented the Valley's religious education teachers, where she was teaching in Bargoed. And since her retirement from teaching, she's been on as a faith delegate from the United Reformed Church. So very sorry that Envis has decided to stand down. Rebecca is sending her a thank you card from the SACRE to thank her for her services over all these years. It's a very long time, 1996. So and I think we're going to miss Envis's input into our meetings. Declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. So please use the hands up function to indicate if you have any such declarations. No, I can't see any hands up. Item 3 is to approve and sign the minutes of the SACRE held on the 28th of March 2022. So we'll take those minutes for accuracy, and they're on pages 1 to 6. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6. And I think we will need to vote on these through the hands up system. So if we could vote on through the hands up system now. I know that some people weren't members of the committee at the time, but those who were,
Somebody need to move and second.
Oh, so, thank you, Julie. I was forgetting that. Would somebody willing to move them first?
I second.
Second, is somebody moving them?
Yeah, I'll move, Chair.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for reminding me, Julie. Right. The voting, I like taking the ones who weren't present. The ones who were present say they are a true and accurate record. So thank you very much for that. If we can now lower our hands, the minutes are therefore approved. Item 4 is to approve and sign the minutes of the standing conference, the agreed syllabus of the Caerphilly SACRE held on the 28th of March. And these are pages 7 to 10. Page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. Somebody willing to move those?
I move.
Thank you, Michael. Somebody willing to second?
I second, Chair.
Thank you. And if we could vote again by show of hands. Again, of the ones present, that is unanimous. Therefore, the minutes of the agreed syllabus conference are approved. The next item is to consider any actions and matters arising from the minutes. Are there any items that need to be raised from those minutes, Hayley, that aren't covered on our agenda anyway?
No, not as far as I know.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll move to item 6, which is an update from the RE advisor. So over to you again, Hayley.
Thank you. So yes, I'm just going to give a brief update really in regards to all things RE or RV as it will be known in our region. So there's been a few things that's happened over the last few months. Mainly the fact that our agreed syllabus was officially agreed on the 20th of June. So that has gone through and has been officially agreed. And now we are in the process of starting to roll out some training and an introduction to our agreed syllabus. The first training session starts tomorrow. And then there'll be another one next Tuesday. So we've got those two to launch our new agreed syllabus to our Caerphilly schools. So that's exciting. We did do a presentation to Caerphilly, Ed Edmonds, Paul Warren was there, and various other people. So we presented to them and they were happy with the agreed syllabus. So we're just thankful for all the hard work and effort that was put into that agreed syllabus, and hopefully the schools will find it useful and valuable. On top of that then, just generally in RE throughout the schools, there is a newsletter that's going out termly. We have previously in SACRE done a SACRE newsletter that's updated schools in SACRE all about things going on within our regions. But what we've decided to do within the EAS to raise a profile of SACRE and RVE. And in the spirit of the curriculum for Wales with the integrated approach, we have combined it with the humanities area of learning because that's now where it sits. And the newsletter is a humanities newsletter, but also with an RVE specific section. So then all the information is going out. And I'd like to start sharing that with yourselves as well. So I will try and add you to the mailing list so you can be part of that newsletter. In this newsletter, then we can add any kind of information that we feel as a SACRE is important for schools to know. So you can have some say on what maybe you think is appropriate to add, but also share good practice, and then you can see what's going on in the schools as well. On top of that, we merged with the Church in Wales. So EAS and the Church in Wales sort of created a little partnership, and we decided to launch a spirited arts competition this summer term. So the spirited art competition was where schools could enter our own version of the NATRE spirited arts competition, and then they could submit pieces of art, dance, music on a theme that was given to them. So we are hoping to have some entries for that, and then we will judge them then. So as part of the whole EAS consortium, could have schools across the region could enter, and then we judge them and then give them a prize in September. So that's quite nice, just to start getting the schools engaged a little bit with RVE and RE, and also working across the AOLEs and begin their work. So that was very exciting. And then just ongoing work then really with sharing any kind of resources on our Twitter page. So if there's any resources you think they should be shared from a SACRE point of view, we can share them and upload them on our Twitter page, and just general correspondence with schools through our networks and our learning areas. So all that's kind of happening in the background as we move forward really in preparation for September. So that's what's been going on across the region.
Thank you, Hayley. Are there any questions that anybody has for Hayley about that? No, if there are no questions on that, then that update is duly noted. Thank you very much. And item 7 on the agenda are the proposed revisions to the terms of reference for the Caerphilly SACRE. So again, Hayley, I'll ask you if you'll introduce this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we have, in line with the new curriculum for Wales and obviously the new agreed syllabus, we have to update our terms of reference. So we will no longer be known as SACRE, we will become SACS, and this all needs to be amended in our terms of reference. So there's only slight amendments, and you have a copy of the terms of reference, the amended terms of reference in your pack. So change of name for the first point, and then the second major change really is the fact that we're going to change the terms of service to 5 years to align with the local elections, because I think previously it was 4 and I think it was confusing, so just to make it 5, just so things run a little bit more smoothly.
Right, thank you, Hayley. Councillor Shacken Dawson.
Hayley, what it was is, because we're changing our name, does that mean we're changing our purpose? Because when I read through the terms of reference, it sounded like we were just focusing on religion. So are we focusing on more, or is it, because I don't see why we're changing our name if we're not changing what we...
If I can come in there, we're changing the name because the under the new curriculum for Wales,
yeah, I read that.
The legislation has changed from being SACRE's, Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education, to Standing Advisory Council on Religion, Values and Ethics.
So we will be discussing those other components of it. We won't just be...
Yes, those components were already being dealt with anyway.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm a new member.
It's just that this just reflects the new name that the Welsh Government have given to us and to the subject name within the curriculum.
Right.
So essentially, nothing really has changed. It's just previously we were called religious education, but to be more sort of like encompassing. And even though religious education in schools did always, like, has historically taught values and ethics as part of it, it's just recognising that now in its title and bringing it all in line. So
will there be more emphasis on those other components though?
No, I think it's just equitable, and I think it's the same. It's historically it's always been that we've taught religion, values and ethics. It's just highlighting this now. So I know there's not a drastic change in saying we're going to teach less religion and more values and ethics, or put more of an emphasis on values and ethics. It's just the fact that we are, recognising that some people believe and then others maybe have alternative beliefs, and it's more the values and ethics. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Marina on this one, because when you read the terms of reference, for example, point 1 says to advise the authority on matters connected with religious worship in county schools. Point 2 talks about religious education. Point 3 talks about, no, point 3 is okay actually, but there is a theme running through the document that just has lots of references to religious education. So perhaps they ought to be, some of the terms in there ought to be revised to recognise that
Right.
it is religion, values and ethics, not just the name.
Well, the
Some
first,
of the points within it perhaps should be updated as well.
if I can get on the first one, the new curriculum for Wales does not change the religious worship side of schools. So we still have that in our remit as to sort of keep an eye on that statutory requirement for the collective act of worship is being done by our schools. And as Hayley said, religious education for many years has encompassed learning about different religions, learning about different belief systems that are not religious, and how people with those different belief systems view various topics and things in the world anyway. So there's no real change, but it could be as we go forward. It could be that we perhaps could tidy up some of the wording. There's no problem with that. But as the new curriculum is coming in September, then our new name has to be reflected in the terms of reference of the committee anyway.
Yeah, I can see the need for doing it, but actually I think Marina raised a good point in saying like some of the other terminology in there perhaps also should reflect the new name.
Right. Well, perhaps we could look at that in the interim, and perhaps if we adopt this, then we can revise it as we go along to reflect that.
I think if I can just come in there, Chair, as well, I think it's difficult as well because collective worship, like you said, hasn't changed, and that is should always be mainly and broadly of Christian nature still, unless there is a valid reason why that might not be the case. So for instance, if you're in an 80% Muslim populated school, then obviously they'd have reason maybe to have a slightly alternative provision, but that has to be brought up and then agreed. So collective worship wouldn't change because that would be the same, but the rest of it still falls in line with the same as previous. Really, it's just the name change would be the main issue because for us, because we are now recognised as SACRE, so standing advisory councils for religion, values and ethics. So the religious part is still in the main what we would, what our subject is, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Okay. So if we're happy to, and the other change, of course, was going to a 5-year term of office rather than a 4-year because of the change in terms of office for the local authorities now is 5 years rather than 4 years. Councillor Whitcomb.
Thank you, Chair. I'm more than happy to support your recommendation that we accept the document and the draft changes today with the possibility of revision to include things like ethics as we go along further. And I'm more than happy to move that part of the report. And I'm also happy to move that part of the report, which increases the term from 4 to 5 years.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Whitcomb. Is somebody willing to second that?
Second.
Right. Well, we'll be taking a vote on this by roll call. So, and implicit in that is that we will review that as we go along, and we will bring back a further report in due course to reflect some of that within the terms of reference. So we'll take a roll call vote. So it would be either for or against or abstain. Councillor Aldworth.
For.
Councillor Shacken Dawson. You're on mute, Councillor Shacken Dawson.
Sorry. For.
Thank you. Councillor Miles.
For.
Councillor Parry.
4.
Myself 4, and Councillor Whitcomb.
4.
The teacher unions, Helen Bartley.
4.
And from the religious organisations, Janet Jones.
4, Chair.
And Michael Gray.
4.
That's unanimous, and we will come back with a revision in due course. Thank you for that. We'll now move to item 8, which is a correspondence update that Rebecca has drawn up for us. I don't know if there are any questions anybody has on that list of correspondence. Councillor Shackendorson, is that the new hand?
That's a question, but it's not about this. It was in reference to our RVE. Will the children be able to explore their own personal beliefs? Because you said about other religions, but in that RVE, will they be able to explore their own personal beliefs and existential views? Or will they only be learning about set religions?
No,
because it's supposed to be values and ethics. So will their personal beliefs be considered?
if I can Chair, is that okay?
Yes, certainly, Hayley.
So within schools at the moment, you know, learners are encouraged to, you know, to explore their own beliefs, you know, in whichever way like they see fit and suitable. And schools are within the new curriculum for Wales, you know, being allowed to develop the curriculum to suit their school and their learners. So again, you know, if you have a school that is, you know, for instance, 80% Jews, then you would, you know, tailor your curriculum so they can explore their beliefs, their values. But that's not just to say then that's all they concentrate on, because obviously they've got to look at non-religious and then others. But yeah, you know, and I'm sure the teacher representatives can come in and say, you know, that this is what happens within schools and at a classroom level. I don't know if there's anybody.
Did you want to comment on that, Helen?
Yeah, I will actually. So I would say, obviously, you know, from a teacher's perspective, we always ask pupils to think about their own personal opinion on a certain topic. And then their personal opinion really is important to develop the rest of the lesson. So, for example, if they're looking at something to do with stewardship, they're looking at their own personal opinion about stewardship. And then they're looking at the views of other people about stewardship. And that's sort of embedded in year 7 right the way through to year 11, which is where we finish at Newbridge. So it's really sort of they're focusing on their own beliefs and the beliefs of others all the time. I think if you speak to sort of most RE teachers, or literally I would imagine all RE teachers actually, that's something that, you know, pupils are really encouraged to develop as part of their own learning experience.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Miles?
Mine was on the correspondence.
Oh, right.
Item 1 was for all SACRE members receive details of training opportunities. Being a new member of the committee, I wondered if I could be sent those details. I'll have missed them if they were sent round in April, but they may be useful now.
Right. I'll check with Beck to see if there was if there are any sort of written ones or other presentation ones that we can get sent out to everybody now, because I think it was the SACRE members had been sent details of the training opportunity rather than having had the training.
Yeah, I misread it. Sorry.
But we could still check it with the Children's Commission to see if there are any slides or things available.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I just to say, I had misread it because I thought it was a list of training opportunities that hadn't yet taken place, but it was one specific opportunity.
I think it was one specific one. Am I right there, Hayley?
Yeah.
And there is a handbook as well that we can provide you, the all about SACRE or SAC to be soon to be. So there'll be that, and you know, if you need any further help or training, then we can do a training session for yourselves, and usually that takes place in the autumn term, so before we come back for the September session.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But we'll still check to see if there's something from the Children's Commissioner that we can have from that training session that the Commissioner held.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So do we note the correspondence update?
Yes.
Right, item 9 is the scheduled meetings for 2022. So Hayley, again, I'm going to hand over to you because I don't think the dates have been set yet.
No, so me and Beck, we have been trying to confirm dates for our future SACRE meetings ready for the academic year for 2022-2023. They haven't been confirmed yet, but as soon as we know them, there'll be one every term, then we will send them out as soon as possible. I think it just helps with making sure we're all correct and that everybody can attend. So we have them hopefully in advance, so just for information purposes, really.
Right. Are we willing to note that? Or are there any questions anybody has on that? Was that a question, Michael, or were you sort of moving that we note it? Oh, Helen, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, thank you. Can I just say it's really useful actually doing this via Teams for me personally, because obviously with any cover issues, it's just easy. I can, you know, sit in my classroom and you know, attend the meeting that way. So it's really useful. Thank you. Right.
Well, Helen, all council committee meetings now have to be multi-locational.
Right. Okay.
It's now the law. So
okay.
So every one of the meetings will be in future as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Chair.
So do we note that update from the scheduled meetings?
Yes.
The next item is feedback from the virtual SACRE meeting, and for those who are new members, SACRE is the Wales Association of SACRE committees. There's an association of all the SACRE committees in Wales, and it was hosted by Neathport Talbot on the 6th of April. Again, it was over Teams because there were no in-person meetings for that. I don't know if there's anything you want to highlight from that, Hayley, or if there are any questions from anyone. Does anybody have any questions on that one? No. Then we'll move on to do we note that feedback? Yeah. And then we have the item 11, which is the feedback from the virtual summer meeting of SACRE on the 29th of June. So, Hayley, I think the voting for the executive committee took place during that meeting.
It did. So the voting took place. So there was some verbal updates and some presentations at the meeting. Usually from various different advisors from across the 22 local authorities. This time was the turn of Swansea. So they did an update in regards to what they are doing in their local authority, which was very useful and very interesting. They also talked about monitoring and ways to monitor RVE going forward, because historically we looked at Estin reports and we monitor the provision, part of our role is to monitor the provision of RVE. Again, we need to go back to that. There was a little bit of a lull in this because of COVID, but now Estin are back out, we can start looking again at provision. They also mentioned, which is something maybe worth noting, is they were asking head teachers in their termly report to governors to add in a specific section all about RVE and how they are monitoring it within schools, as well as continue things like teacher audit and pupil voice. So that was interesting to hear about. They also updated us a little bit on the agreed syllabus situation. So we need to send our agreed syllabus off to members at Welsh Government purely for information purposes, and they store it for us. So that is something that we need to do as a SACRE, just send that off. There was some information on the RVE guidance on Hub. There was the legal section in regards to RVE. There was parts of it that were raised to be unclear, and some clarification needed to be done surrounding the parts of the legal summary on RVE. So SACRE, as the sort of like overarching body, they've sent these concerns off, and Welsh Government have said they are going to look at the section and try and make sure it is there is more clarity with some of the legal sections. And we will get to see the draft before any changes are made. They're not changing any of it as such, but just maybe making it a little bit more easier to read and digest. So that was the message that I had in regards to that. There was also some discussion around the right to withdraw. So historically, pupils have been able to be withdrawn from RVE or RE provision, and the new curriculum, that is not an entitlement. RVE, is something that all pupils should access, and schools and local authorities, I think, are a bit anxious about this, just in terms of if parents raise questions or have any issues with this. So it's nothing that we can change. It is, it is part of the legal section of the Hub guidance. But Welsh Government said they're going to maybe try and start some communication with parents, so the communication will come directly from Welsh Government then, and not from us as a local authority or from schools, because that could be slightly problematic. They didn't like the idea of having one letter sent out to parents, so they decided that they're going to try and do some sort of communication with a first communication, is what they called it. So whether that be an infograph or a flyer, or I'm not really sure, they weren't clear. They were going to send that out to schools hopefully before the end of term. And then following from this, they will reiterate the message in a second communication in September. So I think that is good for schools, because I think it's difficult for head teachers, because it isn't their decision, and then explaining this to parents can be problematic sometimes. So, however, on the flip side, the amount of pupils who are withdrawn from RVE or RE lessons are very few and far between. So hopefully it won't cause too much of a problem. And then looking forward, there's the Hub resources to support RVE. They are hopefully going to be coming out soon. However, it will be probably in September that these resources to support teachers will come out. So the dates are, apparently the first group of 5 modules will come out in September, and then another 3 modules will closely follow, and then there'll be another 3 modules hopefully after that. So they're going to stagger them. Again, things sometimes are a little bit slow, so I am trying my best to push this and say the schools and teachers need these as soon as possible to hopefully inform their planning. And NAPFRE, which is the national sort of group for RE advisors, they are hoping to write an RVE policy, which will then go to SACRE to approve. So schools will have an RVE policy they can include in their school handbook. Again, I think that is useful, and a few schools have asked me for examples. So I think that'll be nice that we've got a sort of an overarching policy the schools can use and then adapt to suit themselves. So that was really the main highlights from the meeting. Then afterwards, the AGM took place and they did the voting.
That's actually the next item on the agenda, Hayley. So we'll hold that bit. Right, I was going to ask for questions, but I can see Councillor Shackman Dawson is already indicating. So
what it is will the parents be shown or informed that they can pull out, this is what I read, you can quote me if I'm wrong, they can pull out shared worship even though they can't pull out of RVE?
Yeah, so collective worship remains exactly the same as it is now. So collective worship is separate to RVE. RVE is meant to be a sort of a discipline in itself, like teaching geography, like teaching history. It is not meant to be any kind of worship involved in it. It is purely that you go and you learn about different religions, non-religious beliefs, etc. As far as collective worship goes, that is still, parents can withdraw them from collective worship. That hasn't changed at all.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah,
Yes, certainly.
Oh, is RVE going to be rolled out to primary schools?
So
Yes.
RVE, yeah. So from September, all primary schools have to be part of the new curriculum for Wales, which is RVE, and secondary schools can opt in if they wish to year 7. However, from next year, so September 2023, it'll be all primary schools, and year 7 and 8 in secondary schools have to be part of the process.
But it's been compulsory in primary schools long before now. It's still been being done in the primary schools, or should have been.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Hayley on that? If not, do we note that update?
Yes.
And then that brings us to item 12, which is the SACRE Executive Committee election. So again, Hayley, I'll hand over to you for this one now.
Thank you. So there were the elections. There's information in your pack surrounding who the nominations, who were nominated for the SACRE elections. The results are not official yet. I did try and find out, but they haven't officially been published yet, so therefore I can't officially share them with yourselves. I spoke to Alice, the secretary for SACRE, and she was contacting the nominees individually this week to let them know the results before we officially have them. But that will come through the SACRE to Beck as correspondence in the first instance, I should imagine. But the message I had was it was a tight run race. So that's what I was prepared. So make of that what you wish.
Right. Well, as soon as we have that information, Beck, I'm sure, will send it out to us all so that we'll all know who were elected. So do we note that?
Yeah.
Thank you. And item 13 is representation at the autumn meeting of the Wales Association of SACREs. Unfortunately, the date hasn't been confirmed yet, but Beck will be contacting us nearer the time to confirm if any members wish to attend. I guess that will probably be a meeting on Teams, or so if any members want to attend, Beck will be sending us out the details, and anybody who wishes to from our SACRE will be able to attend.
Chair, would you know where the venue is for the next battle?
I don't know. They didn't say at the last meeting, did they, Hayley, who was hosting the autumn meeting?
No, they didn't, but I can find out for you, and I assume that will be sort of hybrid as well. So but
Yeah.
don't quote me on that, but I would assume it would be.
Yes, either hybrid or on Teams.
Yeah.
But as soon as we got the information, Bex will be sending it out. Which brings us really to the end of the agenda. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and we will be in touch shortly to let you know the date of the autumn term meeting of our new SAC on RVE. So thank you. I will now declare the meeting closed, and I'll ask committee services to stop the recording.
Thank you, John.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you. That's